What is up, boys? Ron from Fantasy Flow. Welcome back to the channel. Week 8 is officially in the books, man. So we're officially halfway through the fantasy football season. A little bit bittersweet, I will say. Like, I love fantasy football. I love the NFL. Kind of sucks, but now we know if we're going to be contending, right? We're halfway through. If you're 1-7, you might want to pack it up, dude. It might not be your year. If you're 0-8, you probably quit weeks ago. You're probably AFK at this point. But for everyone else, man, if you think that there's still a chance, if you have a team, you're just missing a couple pieces, we're going to talk about some trade candidates in this video. I'm going to talk about 4 or 5 different players that I really like going into the rest of the season. And without wasting any time, bro, we're going to hop into the first one. And it starts with Nico Collins, man. This one's pretty easy. This guy's been essentially a trade candidate since he went on IR, depending on the state of your team, right? So if you're Gucci and you're good and you're, like 6-2 or whatever, even 5-3, Nico Collins has been a target for you most likely because we know that he went on IR in week 6. And Nico Collins is an absolute stud, dude. He's an absolute alpha wide receiver one, and his stats kind of prove it, right? So he never scored single digits. He went 14 fantasy points, 23 fantasy points, 10, 27, and then 14. So Nico Collins was leading the NFL in yardage leading up to his injury. He was getting touchdowns. He had a high average depth of target, meaning he's getting downfield throws. He's getting a lot of volume with downfield throws, which is like the perfect combination that you want. He's just a stud, bro, and he's attached to CJ Stroud and this Texans offense. Now the Texans going into the season wanted to be a passing team. They kind of have been forced to become a rush team, and it's because Joe Mixon's clearly the best player on their team, right? Like combined with the fact that Stephon Diggs went down, Tank Dell kind of has been kind of floppy this season. Like hasn't really done much what compared to what we think he was capable of doing. So the Texans became a rush defense. So they are like crucially waiting for Nico Collins to come back, dude, because he's an absolute stud, bro. In week 5, even the where he only played 13% of the snaps, still went 2 for 78 in a long touchdown, busted off a long touchdown run, then got injured. So as I mentioned, he's on track to return in week 10. They said that he's on track and they expect him to be back in week 10. So as I mentioned, Diggs also out for the season, bro. So not only was he a bona fide top 5 alpha before the Diggs injury, but I think rest of the season he's going to be even better than he was before, right? That's assuming that his health can go back to normal. So with all those factors, considering that Tank Dell really hasn't been him, I think Nico Collins is like a smash trade target. I think if you can afford to take him now, keep in mind, bro, like most people who own Nico Collins are probably not like, all right, I'm gonna go ship him out and trade him away a week before he returns, right, or 2 weeks before he returns. So it has to be the right dude. It has to be the guy who's like struggling. Maybe he's like, 2-6 or 3-5, and he still has like a glimmer of hope, and he can't afford another loss. He has to trade Nico Collins, right? Like he has to. You can like slide in his DMs and tell him about the situation he's in, bro. Some people are like they have this weird fucking doubt, or they have this like refusal to accept their situation. It's like, buddy, you need wins now. You need players to start now. I'm gonna give you two secondary options, like a wide receiver 2 and a running back 2, and you're gonna give me Nico Collins, and there's nothing you could do about it, dude. Let me get you into a dark room with no windows, and I will, whisper sweet nothings into this person's ear to try to get Nico Collins. You have to let them know what their situation is and trade rape them, bro. That's essentially what I'm getting. That's what I'm alluding to. So Nico Collins is the first guy. Let's hop over to the next one. It's Jaylen Waddle. It's that man. So this one was a little bit sketchy for me. I wasn't sure if I should include him as a buy low, but I think his value is so deep in the depths of Dante's Inferno, so deep in the toilet that you just need to go further into Dante's Inferno, go deeper into the shit, dude. Because I think you're gonna come out of it. I think we're gonna come out of this hellhole that we're in. I have Jaylen Waddle, just to let you guys know, in my main league, and it's been an absolute hellhole. Even in week 1, where he popped off, he went 5 for 109, no touchdowns, 5 targets, so no volume. And then we obviously get Tua goes out in week 2. He's been a steaming pile of shit since then, dude. He never got more than like 7 fantasy points. It's been absolutely atrocious, dude. I don't care who the quarterback is, dude. I've seen worse quarterbacks be able to still have somebody produce, right? So I don't know. Jaylen Waddle was an absolute pile of shit, dude. Week 8 expectations are high. The Arizona Cardinals have a dog shit secondary, and the fucking Miami Dolphins, man. Again, he goes only 6 targets, 4 for 45. he does have a like 25-yard pass bounce off his chest. And so that would have gave him like what 80 yards or 70 yards on the day. A little bit better, right? We're feeling a tiny bit better. That would have been 5 for 70, puts him into double digits in most fantasy leagues. So I have some concerns, bro. As I mentioned, he's just not getting the volume. The Dolphins have turned themselves into a running team. They want to run the ball with Achane Mostert. It's last season, keep in mind, they were also like a very run focused team, but they would throw the ball, dude. They'd swing it, man, or they'd sling it. And they had no fear of slinging the ball. Like they were in these rough games second half of the season, so they were throwing the ball a lot. But yeah, man. I mean, they've essentially turned themselves into a run first team, and that led to a 2-6 record. I think the Dolphins don't understand what makes them such a dynamic, like good team on paper, and it's definitely not their rushing attack. Like that's not like look what happened in that Cardinals game, right? They had a lead and they just fell in love with running the ball and they gave up the lead and ended up losing the game. So I don't know. I think Achane and Tyreek are definitely ahead of him on the pecking order. So that's why I was like, should I even include Waddle, who's not getting the volume? And he's got like two bona fide options ahead of him. And then when they get into the green zone or like the red zone, there's actually like three options ahead of him, right? Because then you include Mostert, who's getting way more touches in the end zone. So despite this, I do think he's a buy low option. Basically, he's done fuck all this season, dude. His value is absolutely atrocious. It's in the toilet, especially for a team like mine, right? So I'm what am I like 6-2 in my main league, and I have Waddle. I have like a really stacked starting roster, so I'm looking to like ship Waddle off basically, and I'm willing to part ways with him for pretty cheap, right? Like I'm willing to package him and like another option like a Brian Robinson and tier up for like a running back one for like a top running back. Like that's what I'm trying to do, right? Or like a top wide receiver. So I'm essentially including Waddle as like a middling, back end wide receiver two in some of these trade packages that I'm creating. So if you can get him for that type of value, I would consider doing it, man. Because even though he's not going to get volume, and even though he's going to be kind of that tertiary option for the Dolphins, I still think he's going to have like blow up weeks, right? Especially looking forward, where it's like, all right, they got Buffalo, who's going to be a tough defense, but then you got the Rams, Vegas, New England, Green Bay. Like it really opens up, right? And at the end of the day, like even in tough matchups, I do think like if teams double team Tyreek Hill and they're so worried about the Devon Achane Raheem Mostert run game, like all fucking logic should tell us that it should be Jaylen Waddle that profits. I don't know why it's just not materializing. I think there's nothing wrong with him or his in a vacuum gameplay. I think it's just the situation that he's in. So buy him low. I rank him as like wide receiver 30-ish rest of the season. So if you can get him for that type of value, I'd really try to do that. Next dude on my list is DeAndre Swift, another player that I have, another my guy going into the season. After so I'm just gonna start by saying this. After week 3, I was nowhere to be found. It was like the Homer Simpson meme, bro. I backed up into the bushes. I was like, holy fuck, dude. I've been touting DeAndre Swift all offseason, how he fits the mold of like a potential top 12 running back that you can get in the running back dead zone. I was popping off on people, dude. I was calling people gay. I was telling people they don't know anything about fantasy. I was popping off, dude. And then DeAndre Swift lets me down, dude. The first 3 weeks looked brutal. He was getting some decent volume, but his yards per carry were horrendous. The only thing that was keeping him somewhat serviceable is that he was still getting a couple catches, right? So like in week 2 and 3, still got 4 and 2 target or receptions for like 20 yards. That's going to give you, 5 fantasy points combined with the yardage that you're getting. So, and then we see that weeks 4 through 8, he just absolutely pops off. It should have been week 3 against the Colts. Everyone was expecting that to be the blow up game for the Bears because Tennessee and Houston have a really good run defense. So in week 3, we were expecting a pop off. Didn't pop off. We're like, fuck, dude, we might be cooked over here. We might be body bagged by DeAndre Swift. But week 4 through 8, dude, pops the fuck off. He's been an absolute stud since then. So as I mentioned, he was a bag of shit weeks 1 through 3. Weeks 4 to 8, he's been a top 5 option, dude. And when I say top 5, I don't mean 4 or 5. He's been third with 22.6 points per game since week 4. That puts him behind only Joe Mixon and Derrick Henry, who have been absolute studs in their own right, right? Like I won't even talk about those two old ass motherfuckers. Like that's a story for another video. But the Bears offense, so here's the concern for me, right? The Bears offense is liable to blowing any given week, bro. We saw it in week 8 against Washington, who I know on paper people think Washington Commanders have a shit defense, but they're actually really improving. They've been improving the past couple weeks, like in an ascending manner. So they have a good defense, but still, we see going into halftime, struggle bus, right? The entire Bears offense was a struggle bus. No one, like Caleb Williams, I think going into that last drive by Caleb Williams, he only had like 7 completions in the game. It was insane. DeAndre Swift gets no targets in this game, but we see obviously the 60-yard rushing touchdown that he gets in the second half of that game. Ends up having a really good day even after that, right? Gets more yardage, more chunk plays. Has one play where he absolutely just hurdles over somebody, bro. I want to show you guys this video so we can get hype about it together. Let's just make sure it doesn't explode you guys' ears. All right, dude. So check this out. It's like middle of the field with like 5 defenders around him. Hurdles a dude, clears him, and then continues going. Bro, that dangerous play, by the way. If you're gonna try to hurdle somebody like in traffic, when that happened, dude, my butt cheeks were clenched, man. I was clenching every cheek that I have, man. And he lands, takes the defenders for another couple 5-6 yards. And after that, bro, I was like, all right, dude, DeAndre Swift is back. We are back. Like incredible play, incredible player, dude. He's just been fantastic, man. And as a trade option, I think what a lot of owners are concerned about, and this is another thing that you can like maybe if you can whisper this, like, I don't know, put it on a post-it note and leave it on your fucking league mate's table or something, whatever you got to do, man. Leave like ominous, like subliminal messages about the fact that they should check DeAndre Swift's playoff schedule. He has a really brutal playoff schedule. They play like the Detroit Lions twice and Minnesota in the fantasy playoffs. It's like a brutal playoff schedule, but we want him because we're gonna hope that he gets us to the playoffs. And even in those tough matchups, he could still produce because typically he does get receptions and targets. So the issue with him is that he doesn't really get third downs. I noticed watching the game last week that anytime it was like third and long or even just like third and medium, Roshan was in the game. So basically, Roshan Johnson comes in every single third down, which can be very valuable plays, right? There was even a time when they were in like a hurry up offense at like the end of the first half or the end of the third quarter. I think it was the end of the first half. And DeAndre Swift's in the game. And then on third down, they bring in Roshan Johnson. And then because it's a no huddle, they keep Roshan for the rest of that drive, dude. It was tilting me so much, right? Because that was before DeAndre Swift popped off that long touchdown. So I was just like scratching and clawing, bro, hitting refresh on my phone, waiting for Swift to do anything, dude. I looked like Smeagol, dude, looking at my phone like it was the One Ring. Like, please, Swift, do something. And anyway, so Roshan Johnson gets all of the third down work, so that's a little bit problematic. But I think Swift is still a very good trade option. He still does like more than enough for us moving forward, especially with their schedule in the next couple weeks. You got Arizona, New England, Green Bay, and then you got the tough schedule starts with week 12 against Minnesota. But we want him for these weeks, man. You should have been trading for him in week 3 or 4. After week 4, when he popped off against the Rams, I was telling everybody to trade for him because I knew the schedule that was to come, right? Carolina, Jacksonville, Washington. So holy fuck, I'm taking a while for these names, bro. My bad. I'm sorry. If you guys want to do skip around, there will be timestamps. If you're still here, if you're watching, if you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate a like. Hit me up with the sub, man. Helps the channel. Doesn't cost you anything. You can catch more of my future videos. And the next name on my list is Brian Robinson, another player that I do have. This fucking trade video seems to be all the players that I have. Probably because I watch them closely, so I know which dude's like, all right, this buy opportunity. And Brian Robinson. We're gonna speed this up, bro. I don't need to talk about what he's done this season. You know what he's done. Fantastic yards per carry. He's getting touchdowns. He's getting a lot of work, right? He's getting a lot of volume. He's not getting a lot of third down work, unfortunately, because they do have a really good option behind him, Austin Eckler. But they are one of the NFL's best rushing offenses. They're one of the best offenses in general, to be honest. Like, check out this graphic that I pulled up. It's basically just their offensive rankings. I highlighted the ones that are important. Third in points per game, third in yards per game. They are fourth in rush play percentage, meaning they run the ball almost 50% of the time or more than 50% of the time. Third in rushing yards per game, second in rushing touchdowns per game, fifth in rushes per game. Like, they are a run first team, bro. I know Jayden Daniels has a lot to do with that because he's a running quarterback, but the running backs also have to play their part, right? They also, and you can see based on his production that they have been. The running backs for Commanders have been playing their part. Yeah, as I mentioned, dude, high yards per carry on the season. If you remove the game that he got these 2 touchdowns where he didn't really do much, it was week 5 against Cleveland. He goes into that week with a knee injury. We didn't know if he was going to play. He only goes 7 for 18 on the ground, but he does get 2 goal line touchdowns, so he salvages his day there. If you remove that game where he only played a few snaps and had really poor yards per carry, I think his yards per carry even pops up even more. But yeah, bro, he's a great buy option. He's still not valued as like a top, 15 running back, even though he is one, I think, rest of the season. Like they do have kind of a tough schedule moving forward, but Commanders might be in that like fuck it category, meaning it doesn't matter how tough the matchup is ahead of them. Just Jaden Daniels is him with a capital HIM, dude. He is so good. The offense is humming, dude. They move the ball at will. They hardly punt the ball. Um, I don't care what defense they play against. Now, there's going to be a couple of tests looking forward. Chicago was the first test, and we saw Brian Robinson not get the volume. Like he still was fine. He just didn't get a touchdown and didn't get quite as much volume as we would have liked based on how good he looked. But there's a couple tests looking forward. We got Pittsburgh, we got Philadelphia in week 11, we got Tennessee in week 13. So those are some brutal games on the slate, but I think he'll still be able to produce despite that. So I'd be buying him. I mean, if you can get him for like rank 20 through 30 value, I rank him as a top 15 running back. So whatever, whatever rankings you want to go by. Let's move on now to Rico Dowdle. Top 15 value. That's the summary for DeAndre Swift. So Rico Dowdle, his story, again, we don't have to get into his entire season, but his story is very similar to DeAndre Swift. Brutal first couple weeks. Week 1 was very brutal. He was essentially the number 2 guy behind Ezekiel Elliott, who looked like dog shit. But then we see the ascent, bro. Week 14, he gets 11 targets, or 11 carries. As the season progresses, he starts to get more and more work. He was getting some targets and receptions. It was looking good. He's getting more work. Week 5 gets the blow-up game in a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Goes 20 for 87. Gets a receiving touchdown. Things are fantastic. And then bitch-ass fucking Ezekiel Elliott, dude, goes and cries to his mom and says, I want more work. And then in week 6, they give Ezekiel Elliott a lot more work, and he looks just as bad as we thought he would look, right? Just complete shit. And I think we need to pour one out for everyone who said Dalvin Cook's going to take the job. Everyone was hyped about him. Fucking fantasy Twitter was popping off about how Dalvin Cook, he's going to be, called up from the practice squad. He's going to be playing. He was horrible, dude. Horrible. I think week 8 was probably the best possible outcome for Dowdle because he ends up not playing because of an illness. And then it's basically like Zeke and Dalvin, right? Any of them can probably win the job if they played well. Like if they just popped off. Imagine if Dalvin Cook went for like 12 for 120 and a touchdown, right? Like popped off with the work he got. I think it'd be tough for them to be like, all right, we're going back to Dowdle when he comes back. And I have a couple analogies here, bro. Like Zeke and Cook, they look like your obese 53-year-old uncle at the cookout, still thinks he got it. You throw him a football and he hits you with the spin move, tears his ACL. That's Zeke and Cook, dude. They are both Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman from the bucket list, bro. Like it's their last laugh, bro. They're going out with a bang playing for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like fulfilling some childhood dream because it's over for them, bro. Zeke went 10 for 34, falls into the end zone. Cook goes 6 for 12, gets a reception for 10. 6 for 12. I know the Cowboys offense or the running offense has been really bad. And, they haven't really had much space to run all season, but Dowdle has been actually pretty decent, right? His yards per carry has been over 4 in pretty much every game except for week 1. So yeah, man, I think Rico Dowdle is gonna be the workhorse when he comes back next week. They had a nice little look at Zeke, a nice little look at Cook. They're gonna, they got bingo on Sundays, bro. They're gonna be they're gonna be playing bingo on Sundays. They're not gonna be able to show up and suit up. It's gonna be the Rico Dowdle show moving forward. I think Rico Dowdle is a nice buy low candidate. Again, people don't really value him, right? They don't think he's going to be able to emerge as like the workhorse back, which I really think he will be. So I got him as like a top 25 guy. I'd be trading guys like he's in the range of like Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, DeAndre Swift. He's a little bit behind those guys. So do with that what you will, man. I hope this video helped you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry for the delay on this. It's coming out a little bit late tonight, but had a lot of stuff going on this week. Call of Duty also just came out, so I've been blasting through that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you did enjoy this video or if you disagree with any of these names, I would really appreciate a like. Cost you nothing. A subscribe also costs you nothing. It is the best way to show support, man, if you want to catch more of my videos moving forward. In any case, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.